revolution. Here we go. This is Brent Allen Winters, commonlawyer.com, www.commonlawyer.com, and we're going through the Catechism on the Constitution of the United States, the laws of nature, our common law, due process. That's what our Constitution is, a slice of our common law tradition as it pertains to the limit of government. You can find all these principles in our Constitution of the United States, for instance, in William Blackstone's commentaries, published 1765, a reproduction of his lectures delivered at Oxford University in 1765. William Blackstone. All those principles are there in this catechism. He tries to draw them out. I'm going to talk about revolution. What do you mean by revolution? He says in the next question, he says, the answer, a revolution means some great change of government. And we ought ever to remember ours with ardent gratitude to God for so great a blessing, and with lasting love and reverence for those good, wise, and brave men who went through such dangers and sufferings that their country might be free. Free? Free from what? The law of the city, that's what. Free to what? Even more importantly, free from that, free to the law of the land. Now he continues by calling this a revolution. The next question says, when and where did the War of Revolution begin? And he assumes it's a revolution. Now, we all know different things. I know some things. He knows another. You know another that I don't know. And the things that I know, I want to focus on. And the things that I know are not ambiguous, that there's no speculation, there should be no disagreement about. And one of the things that there should be no disagreement about, but there is, unfortunately, there should be no disagreement that the American War for Independence was not a revolution. Revolution is a law of the city tradition. Listen to me, a revolution, that bears repeating, is a law of the city tradition, not a law of the land tradition. The law of the city is fraught with revolution, coup, assassination. That's not part of the law of the land. You know, if we just changed governments or the people running government here in America at the national level. If you tried to do that in South America, there'd probably be hundreds, if not thousands of people killed. No, they have a revolution. They have revolutions down there. Why? They're a Roman Catholic country. It's hardcore. And the Roman Church is the father, in modern times, the author, the inventor of revolution. Again, I'd mentioned this before. I refer you to Harold Behrman's book, Law and Revolution. Big, thick book, about like a concrete block. It's thick. It's the culmination of all his life of study. He was professor of comparative law and other things at Harvard Law School for years. He got fed up with Harvard, couldn't stomach it anymore, and he went down to Georgia and became professor at Emory School of Law, much more conservative-minded there. Well, he ended his life having written this book, Law and Revolution, and he traces, and accurately so, I'm fully persuaded, he traces the revolution in modern times from the papal revolution of the 11th century. That's the 1000s. And he traces administrative law, bureaucratic law, from the papacy in the 11th century, the 1000s. He traces corporations, the doctrine of corporation, incorporation, from the papal revolution of the 1000s. And he does, it's a thick book, he does a good job of substantiating everything he says. This is the end of his life. This is his life's work, is this book. Harold Behrman. And he draws the distinction between the law of the land and the law of the city. And he points out that revolution is and other great comparative lawyers comparing the law of the land, the Code of Justinian, the Code of Babylon, with the law of the city, our common law. You can't know our common law with comparing and contrasting in the adversarial process, because the one is adversarial, our common law. The other is inquisitorial. One of the beauties of our common law is the more adversity there is, the stronger it gets. I had a fella. The more adversity there is, the stronger it gets. I had a fella testify at a trial. My little home county had a hard time getting a jury in that case. In that case, we did, because it seemed like everybody in the jury pool was either my school teacher, or a childhood friend, or family, or something. We got a jury together finally. We ran out of jurors. That was a case. We ran out of jurors in that one too. Had to go grab some off the street. It was on the other side of the county, so I'm on my side of the county. I knew everybody. I didn't care about people on the other side of the county, and there was a great rival between the two. Well, the area I grew up was oil rich in the Wabash Valley. The richest piece of real estate in that section of the world. Wasn't very big. The Siggins Pool. Oil wells were from 500 foot and up to 125 foot deep. Easy to get at. All those wells were put in before they were regulated. The oil flowed out. You talk about a land flowing with milk and honey. This land flowed with oil. Black gold, Texas tea. Well, the people on the other side of the county, they thought that was the county seat. They were uppity about it. They thought they were jealous. They were envious. A lot of wealth on that side of the county, a lot of rich folk. Didn't know how to handle money, but they were rich. I grew up, my buddy Jay, his family was one of the heirs of that Siggins Pool. Fascinating stories. Well, at any rate, they were envious on the other side of the county. And this case was about a piece of farm equipment that did not work as advertised, and it cost $500,000 approximately to buy. And a fellow I grew up with bought it. The judge was in his high school class. He was 6'5". The fellow, my client, was 6'5". The judge was about 5'4", something like that. And they had run against each other in high school for class president. So here we were before this judge. I called them Douglas and Lincoln, you know. Well, we brought in a fella who was an expert witness for us, because my man had bought this piece of farm machinery. It didn't work, and it had destroyed his business, because it had destroyed a lot of his clients' crops. It didn't work right. The piece of spray equipment, including 40 acres of Dad, my father's. Dad never held it against him, Doug. But we brought in an expert witness who had been a professor of projectile motion at one of West Point's feeder schools there in the Wabash Valley, a little college called Rose-Hulman at Terre Haute, Indiana. Rose-Hulman. They used to call it Rose, and then Tony Hulman, who was heir to the Clabber Girl Bacon Powder Company there in Terre Haute, he was a billionaire, and he donated money, and then they called it Rose-Hulman. Big ROTC program, male-only school back in them days. A lot of effeminates there now, and girls, they just study computer programming and stuff like that. The president doesn't want any, he won't allow any guns on campus. ROTC is out the window. Well, but what happened was this guy then became a professor at West Point, United States Military Academy, and his expertise with projectile motion, so that meant his expertise had to do with artillery and rifles, rifle technology, artillery, rifled artillery technology. And he got to talking to me about research they were doing at that time. He was there at Terre Haute at that time, hadn't been at West Point. They were developing alloy of metal that they use in a piece of artillery. And they discovered, you know, anything that has trauma to it eventually will disintegrate or melt or break or bend or something. It's three levels of things happen according to the strength of materials. The discipline of strength of materials. There's stress, and when stress reaches a certain level, there's what the engineer calls strain, and when that reaches a certain level and you keep the pressure on somehow, and then the next step is called rupture. And with every material and compound, whether it's an element or compound, you can draw a graph and predict exactly when that rupture will occur. given certain stress, a certain amount of trauma down here, when will strain occur, when will stress occur, and when will rupture occur. Well, the same is true of barrels of artillery and rifles. No, we used to have to switch out the barrels in, well, an M60 machine gun. You'd have to switch that out ever so many rounds because it would start to warp. It wouldn't shoot straight anymore. It'd be, like this. Same thing true of 20 millimeter cannons. We're talking big things. They just get so they get hot. When you're firing 60 rounds a second, get that, 60 rounds a second, well, that heats things up quite a bit, and they're not water-cooled weapons. Well, that's why one guy always had to carry a couple of spare barrels, say, or maybe 3 or 4. But he developed, or he was helping develop, this alloy that every time you fired this piece of artillery, it didn't get weaker, it got stronger. I said, how can that be? Now, we do know that living material will get stronger with trauma. Living material will get stronger with trauma. Trees get stronger if they're traumatized by wind just a little bit. When your bones, that's living material, when one of your bones breaks, it will heal back and it will never break there again, ever. Why? It heals back stronger. That's why. It may break on both sides of it or something, but it won't break there. Because living things with trauma get stronger. Your teeth get stronger when you eat nuts, carrots, celery. There's something that traumatizes them mildly. And your jaw bones get stronger if you eat foods that traumatize them, like an apple, a pear that sturge. You eat nothing but mashed taters, gravy, and meat like folks did when I was growing up. You'd probably lose your teeth by the time you're 40. I saw that happen. I had a cousin, first cousin once removed. Well, it was Cousin Gary, Cousin Gary, his older sister. She lost her teeth, pretty beautiful woman. I know she's family, but I have to say she was a looker. She's gone now. And boy, the boys were after her, including a couple of cousins of mine on the other side. Well, anyway, she lost her teeth, though, by the time she was 40 or something. And then her false teeth started getting loose. And every time she get them replaced, then they get loose again. That happened 3 or 4 times. Finally, the dentist said, I know what the problem is. You're not eating food that traumatizes the muscles in your jaws. Even though you have false teeth, you have to traumatize those bones in your jaws or they will start to atrophy, to deteriorate and get weaker and smaller. And the bones in your gums will get smaller. And as your gums shrink with the bone, your false teeth will get loose. My friends, eat foods that will traumatize your mouth a little bit, your bones. But he said, we got this dead material in this rifle, this artillery barrel, and we've developed material that gets stronger with each round fired through it. That's what he was saying. And that's our common law tradition. It gets stronger with adversity. That's what we call it, an adversarial tradition. Don't be exercised and worried when the law of the city idiots attack our country, attack our government. That's what they're doing now. They're attacking. They want to get rid of the common law. There's only 2 options, the law of the land and the law of the city, and the combinations of the two on the continuum between those 2 poles. That's all there is. Religion, law, and government, you only got 2 options among humanity. Be encouraged. And if you're born of the Spirit, adversity will strengthen you. It will not weaken you because your spirit is life. Not your spirit, the Spirit of God living in you, coupled with your spirit, enlivens your spirit, and you become stronger with every blow from the evil empire. Don't kid yourself. That's what the Bible teaches. Just like the oak gets stronger with the wind. But that's living material. And our common law is living, but down in South America and other places around the world, it's a matter of coup and revolution. And our American war for independence was not a revolution. What's the difference? A revolution, and you look at the revolutions and think, if you've studied or read a little bit about some of these revolutions in the past, namely, and the ones Harold Behrman focuses on, the papal revolution of the 11th century, then we come, of course, to the French Revolution of the late 1700s, and a lot of other smaller revolutions that he talks about that I won't mention here, of course. Then the Russian Revolution of 1917, Red October, the Communist Revolution, the Cambodian Revolution, the Vietnamese Revolution, the Korean Revolution, and all the revolutions in the other states that became communist in Europe and the satellite states. They're all about avenging, working people up to avenge the past. We're mad, we're not going to put up with this anymore. And if you have that attitude now toward the Democrats, forget it. Then you become part of the problem. That's not what our common law is about. Yes, America just won an election. We follow the right process. Looks like DJ Donald John's going to be president again, bless his soul. Well, what should we be focused on? Avenging the past? Getting after all those people that did nasty things to us, eliminating them? No, 1,000 times no. Because what a revolution does is avenges the past and has no thought about moving forward and securing the future. Our war with Britain was not about avenging the past, and we did not avenge the past. What was it about? It was about securing our future. Read our founding documents. It wasn't about vengeance. What was the Russian Revolution about? Vengeance. And how many did they murder? Something like 20 million. And people asked Stalin, well, when are you going to stop murdering people or killing people? He didn't say murder, that would offend it. When are you going to stop killing people? He said, when I don't need to anymore. Just kill them all until I get rid of them. Well, in the killing fields of Cambodia, it was just about avenging the past and murdering everybody who had an education, who might be a danger to that, had an education. Oh, yeah. You got an education, you know how to read and write, we got to kill you because we're starting over. Revolution is about new birth, the concept of the new birth. Well, what's wrong with that? Isn't that Christian? No, not when it comes to government. When it comes to your life, yes, that's the new birth. Our separation from Britain was not a revolution. It wasn't about avenging the past. It was about listen to me. Our war with Britain was about establishing the past, to conserve our common law tradition, to conserve the Christianity at the foundation of our common law tradition. What was the appeal to? What did the flag say? Don't tread on me. An appeal, it said, to heaven. What did our Declaration of 76 say? More than once. And for the I'm quoting. He who never quotes is never quoted. And for the rectitude of our intentions, rectitude, that has nothing to do with rectums. The guy said, what's that has to do with rectum? I said, no. Rectitude is an old Latin word that means straight, right. For the trueness, the rightness, the straightness of our intentions, rectitude. I wish he'd have used a simpler word, but he didn't. For the rectitude of our intentions, we appeal, us Americans, we appeal to the supreme judge of all the world. The supreme judge, yeah, the final arbiter of right and wrong. In individual instances, from whose decision there is no appeal and who has no obligation to tell us why he decided the way he did. We call that God. A God. We appeal to him. We did not appeal to ourselves and say, the workers of the world unite and all that baloney. No. We appeal to him. Read our founding documents. Read the founders, what they said. Read Madison. Well, Madison's favorite subject was Hebrew when he was at Princeton. But his constitution, his weakness, he was a very small man. I mean, really small. And he was weak physically. He didn't think he could handle being the pastor of a church. That's enough to kill anybody. How do I know? I've tried it. I'm lucky I'm alive. It's worse in politics. The attacks come heavier, especially if you're saying the truth. And they come heavy in politics. Oh, they'll try to kill you if they need to. Well, this was not a revolution. It was not a rejection of our past, but an attempt to reestablish our past. our common law tradition. That was all of it. That was everything. That was the reason. Securing our future. This is Brent Allen Winters, commonlawyer.com, www.commonlawyer.com. And this, friends, neighbors, and kin, is in church, INN, connected and affiliated with Winters Inn, the law school. This is a common lawyer comments concerning our common law, or law of the land. Comes in 2 volumes. The first one unwritten, our common law, due process, the law of the land, common law, Volkrecht of our ancient forebears. Second volume written. We call that the Bible